Namaste. Thank you all for braving the weather and coming over to celebrate our second anniversary celebrations today and tomorrow. We just want to mention about some highlights about our center. It's about our VVCC mission. It's foster a community who follow the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Sarada Devi, and Swami Vivekananda. Engage and emphasize the ideal of practical Vedanta, disseminate the teachings of the Vedanta to the younger generation, help develop a community and leaders with broad values of inclusivity. Our vision is as follows: provide a place for current and future spiritual seekers in Connecticut to gather and practice following Sri Ramakrishna's ideals and Vedantic philosophy. Maintain a quiet, inviting, and secluded atmosphere for meditation and reflection. Arrange lectures from Swamis and spiritual practitioners to share their wisdom. Follow Swami Vivekananda's ideals for worshipping God through service of humankind. A note about our forthcoming events. On October 22nd, between Sunday, between 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., we have Maha Ashtami celebrations. And being Sunday evening 5:30 p.m., we have a regular Aarti followed by meditation. On November 18th, Saturday, 3 to 6 p.m., we have Swami Sarvapriyananda coming over here giving this course. That will be followed by Aarti and meditation. On November 20th, between 6 to 9 p.m., we have Jagadatri Puja celebrations. Also, please make a note, from November 5th, Sunday onwards, we'll follow weekend schedules. Our Aarti and special events during first Sunday and second Saturday, we will advance by 1 hour. We are sending communications at least 1 month in advance for all the events, and again a reminder 1 week prior to the event day. And it is also published on the website well before that. So whenever you get the emails, please, that is, go ahead and register online as soon as possible, because the organization committee, more specifically the food committee and the others, it will be very helpful for them to plan, that is, and have the event smooth go through successfully. Kindly, as soon as you decide that you can attend, at least 1 week in advance, we request you. And another thing is, if you have registered, it would be good if you can please be on time in the morning, at least 5 or 10 minutes, around the time. So that will be really helpful for that to get the sessions started and going. And another important thing is we have an ongoing food drive to benefit the local poor and the needy. And we have put in a box in the reception area, and whatever the thing you can, that is, bring a can of and that is perishable food, and you can just drop it. Non-perishable. Okay, non-perishable. You can just put it in a box and engage, participate, and volunteer on our center activities. And we plan to publish online the list of volunteering opportunities available, and that will be an open document, and you can enter that as and when it's available. And the another thing is, with respect to this event, based on the request we made, several of you came forward and sponsored several expenses for this today's programs. And also earlier, that is, when we have the lawn improvement related things, so some of you have voluntarily came forward and participated and sponsored. And we wish to thank you for everything you've been doing. We wish to remind everybody that it is our center is run by devotees and with the support of devotees all the time. And we encourage, that is, everybody to come, engage, and participate in our activities. And finally, and we have a mortgage loan repayment of about $20,000 a year. And also, that is, we plan for another capital expansion of constructing a rectory of Swami's residence that will cost about $500,000. So, whatever it is possible, whenever it is possible, we request you to participate and contribute the way you can. Please see front desk. that is collect the details more, and that is accordingly do whatever you can. And thank you. With that, Swami, you would like to introduce the file?
No.
So I want to give it to Dolamashi to get started with the choir. Thank you.
What they say.
Thank you, Mani. Welcome to our choir program. Maharajas are here. Thank you for staying back for this program. But before I go into our program, I would like to thank Raj, who is an excellent tabla player, and he is really good. But he has moved to Connecticut, but he still came today, despite the bad weather, everything, to play with us. New Jersey, sorry. He used to be in Connecticut. He's New Jersey, and our heartfelt thank to you, Raj, for doing that. Yes. Today will be the continuation of our program, Life and Work of Swamiji, Part 3. For Part 1 and Part 2, which were done last year and at the beginning of this year, we focused mainly on the life of Swami Vivekananda. Today we will focus mainly on the work and message of Swamiji. As you can all understand, it is really impossible to say everything about his work and message within the confine of this program. So I have picked 5 different work and messages, which I think is very important, not only for us, it's relevant to this time, but particularly for the kids to know about these messages. And we will, yes, the, they are participating in narration and songs, but our choir members, both adult and youth, have also drawn pictures relevant to today's program, which will be displayed on the TV up there. We will also be displaying the English translation of the songs that we will be singing. Hope you all enjoy.
One, spreading message of Vedanta to the West and creating a bond between the East and the West. Foundation of Ramakrishna Mission. Kanyakumarika, the tip of the Indian peninsula that marks the confluence of the Bengal, Arabian Sea, and the Indian Ocean. Swami Vivekananda swam to a rock in the water, sat on it, and meditated. He did not meditate for his own salvation, but for his country. During his wandering years, Vivekananda had experienced the sufferings and problems faced by common people. Their poverty, lack of self-respect, and education pained him. He wanted to help these poor people restore their dignity and self-respect. He meditated on the rock for 3 days and nights and returned to the shore on the 4th day. He now had a vision of one India and came up with a solution. In a letter written, Vivekananda recalled, "We are so many sannyasis wandering about and teaching the people metaphysics. It's all madness. Did not our Guru Deva used to say, an empty stomach is no good for religion? That those poor people are leading the life of brutes is simply due to ignorance. We have for all ages been sucking their blood and trampling them underfoot." He decided to dedicate his life to the welfare and upliftment of the common masses of India. But he needed money for that, so he decided to go to America to raise funds for his project. He reasoned, as our country is poor in social virtues, so this country is lacking spirituality. I give them spirituality, and they give me money. With that goal, he sailed for America to give a speech at the Parliament of Religion held in Chicago.
সাথে ছিল মা শারদা
বঙ্গকণ্ঠে ধরিয়ে ধর্মের আসল বারতা, বঙ্গকণ্ঠে ধরিয়ে ধর্মের আসল বারতা, মুক্ত হইয়া ধরিল ধর্মের আসল বারতা, মুক্ত হইয়া শুনিল বিশ্ববাসী, মুগ্ধ হইয়া শুনিল বিশ্ববাসী। তুমি হে বীর সন্ন্যাসী, তুমি হে বীর সন্ন্যাসী।
His very first address to the Parliament of Religion created a stir across America and catapulted him to fame. Initially, he faced great difficulties, but his messages eventually received enthusiastic reception across America and attracted many followers. His stay in America extended, as did his initial goals of coming to America. In 1894, he established the Vedanta Society in New York, the very first of its kind in the world. Eventually, many other such centers were created. His reputation was not restricted to America alone. He got invitations to speak in England and Europe too. He sailed for London from New York in 1895 and after a short halt at Paris, reached London. After 4 months, he returned to America and again visited London in September 1896, lecturing in England, France, and Italy en route, before boarding a ship in Naples. Thus, from 1893 to 1896, the Swami engaged himself in laying the firm foundation of Vedanta in America and England, where he was able to establish many Vedanta centers. Like in America, England gave him very valuable friends and disciples like Margaret Noble, later known as Sister Navita, Henrietta Muller, and Mr. Goodwin. All these disciples followed the Swami to India and extended help in his mission. Thus, Swami Vivekananda's travel in the West was instrumental in not only spreading the messages of Vedanta to the West, but also in creating a spiritual bond between the East and the West. This tradition continues even today. Just like this one, numerous Vedanta centers have been established throughout the world. Worldwide, there are 274 branch centers, of which 67 are outside India, located in 24 different countries. Furthermore, there are 53 subcenters like this one that are functioning under these centers that help to propagate the message and practices of Vedanta as taught by Thakur, Nath, and Swamiji amongst the newer generations and help people advance in their spiritual journey. Swamiji's success in the West helped him in India too. Before he came to the West, many disagreed with his thoughts or methods. Many even ridiculed him during the initial periods of struggle in America. But as the West accepted his leadership in spirituality, he gained the support of many people in India too. When he returned to India, he was given a king's reception. He was invited to give innumerable speeches throughout India, and people flocked to these meetings. With the help of this support and enthusiasm and resources, he gathered from the West on May 1st, 1897. He founded the Ramakrishna Mission, headquartered in Belur. The mission's activities cover the following areas: education, healthcare, cultural activities, tribal welfare, and disaster relief. Today, there are centers of Ramakrishna Mission throughout India that are doing great work in lifting the lives of poor and underprivileged people. Thus, the establishment of Ramakrishna Mission was truly the fulfillment of Swamiji's lifelong dream and resolve of upliftment and welfare of his countrymen.
জয় ধ্বনি উঠিল বিশ্বজয়ী বিবেকানন্দ আসিলে গো। জয় ধ্বনি উঠিল বিশ্বজয়ী বিবেকানন্দ আসিলে গো। আয় 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 রে চলে আয়, আয় 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 রে চলে, তার রথ চক্র নারিব সবাই, তার রথ চক্র নারিব সবাই। জয় 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 বীরের শান বিবেকানন্দে জয়, জয় ধ্বনি উঠিল বিশ্বজয়ী বিবেকানন্দ আসিলে গো। বিজয়ীর বেশে আসিছেন তিনি রাজসহ, বিনামরঙ্কারে ঘোষিলেন বাণী মন্ত্র সহ। বিজয়ীর বেশে আসিছেন তিনি রাজসহ, কিনাকুটঙ্কারে ঘোষিলেন বাণী মন্ত্র সম চলিল অস্থি অসূত্র রাজারা হইলে পুলকিত কাটিয়া উঠিল জয় সঙ্গীত আয় 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 রথ চক্র টানিব সবাই রথ চক্র টানিব সবাই জয়ধ্বনি উঠিল বিশ্বজয়ী বিবেকানন্দ আসিলেন তোরা দেখ 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 উড়াই বিজয় নিশান আসিল বঙ্গতনয় তোরা দেখ 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 উড়াই বিজয় নিশান আসিল বঙ্গতনয় করহে প্রণাম তারে বারবার নিতে হবে তার গর্ব ভার করতে না থেকে তার স্বামীজি আসিলেন রথ চক্র টানিব সবাই রথ চক্র টানিব সবাই জয়ধ্বনি উঠিল বিশ্বজয়ী বিবেকানন্দ আসিলেন জয়ধ্বনি উঠিল বিশ্বজয়ী বিবেকানন্দ আসিলেন বিশ্বজয়ী বিবেকানন্দ আসিলেন বিশ্বজয়ী বিবেকানন্দ আসিলেন
Two, nation building. Vivekananda was convinced that at the root of all evils in India is poverty and miserable conditions of the poor, and that in turn is rooted in the darkness of ignorance and lack of education. His statements like, "I do not believe in a religion or God that cannot wipe away the widow's tears or bring a piece of bread to the orphan's mouth," show not only his concern for the marginalized, but also brings in the religious basis for both service and development programs.
Swami Vivekananda believed in raising the poor and ignorant masses, not just through donation, but wanted them to be empowered and made capable of building their own destinies. He wanted the haves in society to create a helpful environment wherein the poor could improve without affecting their self-esteem and dignity. He was deeply pained by the social and economic differences that were prevailing. He considered that the great national sin was the neglect of the masses, and that was one of the causes of India's downfall. He wanted these masses to be well educated, well fed, and well cared for. In the letter he wrote, the only service to be done for our lower classes is to give them education, to develop their lost individuality. Give them ideas, that is the only help they require, and then the rest must follow as their fact. At the same time, he realized that any economic growth had to be inclusive without hurting either the rich or the poor. He writes, "It's not by bringing down the rich, but by pushing up the poor, we can hope to bring in equity." Apart from being intensely practical, it provides the space for all to participate in a growing economy.
Swami Vivekananda took the path that would cause least unrest in the society, the path which he chose to call as the line of least resistance. He didn't want to disturb the equilibrium that we had, but it gave it a new inspiration. His message, help and not fight, assimilation and not destruction, harmony and peace and not dissension, reflects these ideas. He argued that if we have to appeal to the soul of the nation, we have to drink deep from the fountain of the past and then proceed to build the future. This heritage from the past, he pointed out, was essentially a religious heritage. By religion, he meant the eternal life giving principles as taught by the Vedanta, and not the mass of superstitions and local customs, which are mere accretions, requiring a weeding out with a strong hand.
However, he clearly was against all forms of superstitions and evils of priestcraft. In his own words, the poor are to be fed, education is to be spread, and the evil of priestcraft is to be removed. No priestcraft, no social tyranny. More bread, more opportunity for everybody. This is to be brought about slowly and by only insisting on our religion and giving liberty to society.
Biju, Brahmo Tejo, Uti Gloria, Elore Ba, Patro Biju, Brahmo Tejo, Uti Gloria, Elore Ba, Pavone, Pavone, Utilore, oi, Maboi, Maboi, Urunga, Patro Biju, Brahmo Tejo, Uti Gloria, Elore Ba.
Does it work? Go ahead.
3. Development. Swamiji realizes that it is very hard for adults to give up lifelong habits and practices or stand up against what they have been told all their lives.
But youth is that wonderful time in life when energy is limitless. Human
Creativity.
is at its best, and the never say die spirit is at its peak. Youth is also an impressionable age, wherein we try and model our life against of a role model or icon. So, Swami Vivekananda wanted to recruit the youth of India in his project for nation building. He mentioned repeatedly, my faith is in the younger generation. His clarion call to the youth was to focus their collective energies towards nation building. He made characters as the underlying foundation for all the great undertakings. Combine science with religion, which would lead to harmonious development of all the sides in a person. On 19 November 1894, he wrote from New York to his disciple Alasinga Perumal. Nothing else is necessary but these: love, sincerity, and patience. What is life but growth that is expansions that is love? Therefore, all love is life. It is the only law of life. All selfishness is death, and that is truth here and hereafter. It is life to do good. It is death not to do good to others. Feel, my children, feel. Feel for the poor, the ignorant, the downtrodden. Feel till the heart stops and the brain reels and you think you will go mad. Then pour the soul out at the feet of the Lord, and then will come power, health, and indomitable energy. Struggle, struggle was my motto for the last 10 years. Struggle, still say I. It is love that pays. It is character that cleaves its way through adamantine walls of difficulties.
Have fire and spread all over. Work, work. Be the servant while leading. Be unselfish and never listen to one friend in private discussing another. Have infinite patience and success is yours. Now take care of this. Do not try to boss others. This is what kills all organizations. Work, work. For to work only for the good of others is life.
I want there should be no hypocrisy, no shilly-shally, no historic blackguardism, no secret handbook. Nothing should be done in a corner.
No special favoritism of the master. No master at that, even. Onward, my brave boys. Money or no money. Men or no men. Have you love? Have you God? Onward and forward to the breach. You are irresistible.
He believed that the brain and muscles must develop simultaneously. Iron nerves with an intelligent brain, and the whole world is at one's feet. Therefore, he greatly emphasized on physical strength and activities for youth to become physically strong as well. Because of his work with youth, in 1984, India government marked his birthday, January 12th, as the National Youth Day.
সূর্য দাও, সূর্য দাও, বীর্য দাও, নবীন জীবন দাও। পরায় পরাবিদ্যা দাও, দীপ চেতন দাও। সূর্য দাও, সূর্য দাও, বীর্য দাও, নবীন জীবন দাও। পরায় পরাবিদ্যা দাও, দীপ চেতন দাও। সূর্য দাও, গর্বে শক্তি দাও, হৃদয়ে ভক্তি দাও। গর্বে শক্তি দাও, হৃদয়ে ভক্তি দাও। নির্মল শুভ বুদ্ধি দাও, জ্ঞান পরিমা দাও। সূর্য দাও, সূর্য দাও, বীর্য দাও, নবীন জীবন দাও। পরায় পরাবিদ্যা দাও, দীপ চেতন দাও। সূর্য দাও, ত্যাগেতে মতি দাও, সেবাতে প্রীতি দাও। ত্যাগেতে মতি দাও, সেবাতে প্রীতি দাও। স্বার্থ দ্বন্দ্ব ভেদ বুদ্ধি চিরতরে মুছে দাও। স্বার্থ দ্বন্দ্ব ভেদ বুদ্ধি চিরতরে মুছে দাও। এ নব যুগের নবীন কান্তে লিখিত করো মিলন মন্ত্রে। এ নব যুগের নবীন কান্তে লিখিত করো মিলন মন্ত্রে। সার্থক করো জীবন মনের, চরণে শরণ দাও। সূর্য দাও, সূর্য দাও, বীর্য দাও, নবীন জীবন দাও। পরায় পরাবিদ্যা দাও, দীপ চেতন দাও। সূর্য দাও।
For advancement of science and technology. Swami Vivekananda's vision went beyond propagating Hinduism to the West. He was keen that India, though religious, also understands the use of science and technology. He was concerned that Indians were steeped in ignorance and superstition, and this came in the way of both physical and spiritual process. He constantly urged his devotees to not to accept anything without taking it through the test of experimentation. He used to goad his disciples to carry a magic lantern projector of those days and go to villages teaching science to our rural brethren.
Very few also know of his contribution in setting up the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore. Swami Vivekananda met Sir Jamshedji Tata for the first time in 1893. They were traveling together in a ship that sailed from Yokohama to Vancouver. Swamiji was traveling to the US on his life's mission of taking Hinduism to the world. Sir Jamshedji Tata was the doyen of Indian industry and was visiting the United States in search of equipment and technology needed for his steel plant. Both these extraordinary Indians loved their country and were very concerned about the welfare of their countrymen. They started talking, and Swamiji asked Jamshedji to consider creating an institution that would build a scientific and technological human resource pool for the country.
Though they never met after that journey, these words struck a chord in Jamshedji's heart. 5 years later, Jamshedji's response came in a letter to Vivekananda in which he mentioned that he was starting such an institution in Bangalore and wanted to know if Swamiji could take on the responsibility of heading it. Swamiji courteously turned down this offer, but encouraged him on. Swamiji passed away in July 1902. Jamshedji did not live long either. He died in 1904, unaware that his vision would be realized just 5 years later. The Indian Institute of Science, a gift from the Tatas, was born in 1909 and is today the pride of the nation.
Jai Vivekananda Guru Bhuvana Mangalakari Jai Vivekananda Guru Bhuvana Mangalakari Sira Samadhi Krish Parase Nara Siddharik Aaye Dhara Par Jaya Vivekananda Guru Bhuvana Mangalakari Deva Jago Jago Dukha Padavi Kirse Mago Sukha Deva Jago Jago Dukha Padavi Kirse Mago Sapta Loka Mrityumabhishwara Vikramavi Nidharako Jaya Vivekananda Guru Bhuvana Mangalakari Vishwavyapak Prema Murti Vishwadhaka Paramamyani Vishwavyapak
Five, service to others. One of the greatest messages Swami Vivekananda is his call for service to others. Swami Vivekananda had a simple formula. He laid down in clear and simple terms the three levels of service that one can do.
The first is that of the physical service, taking care of human body and undertaking activities to reduce human physical suffering, running hospitals, orphanages, old age homes, and various programs that could generate income would qualify for this level.
The next higher level is that of intellectual service. Many schools, colleges, and where there is empowerment programs will operate at this level. And finally, for the evolved, he prescribed the highest level of spiritual service.
Swami Vivekananda always spoke about the need to serve. He knew that in the ideal of service, we could find solutions for many of our national problems. His thought in this regard is very clearly demonstrated in the following communication with a spiritual preacher who belonged to a society for protection of cow and had come for an interview with Swamiji, taken from the book Diary of a Disciple.
What is the object of your society?
We protect the mother cows of our country from the hands of the butcher. Cow infirmaries have been founded in some places where the diseased or decrepit mother cows or those bought from the butchers are provided for.
That is very good indeed. What is the source of your income?
The work of the society is carried on only by gifts kindly made by great men like you.
Thank you. What amount of money have you now laid by?
The Marwari traders community are the special supporters of this work. They have given a big amount for this good cause.
You know, a terrible famine has now broke out in central India. The Indian government has published a death roll of 9 lakhs of starved people. Has your society done anything to render help in this time of famine?
No, we do not help during famine or other distresses. This society has been established only for the protection of mother cows.
During a famine, when lakhs of people, your own brothers and sisters, have fallen into the jaws of death, you have not thought it was your duty, though having the means, to help them in this terrible calamity with food?
No, this famine broke out as a result of men's karma, their sins. It is a case of like karma, like fruit.
Hearing the words of the preacher, sparks of fire, as if they were scintillated in Swamiji's eyes, his face became flushed, but he suppressed his feelings and said,
Those associations which do not feel sympathy for men, even seeing their own brothers and sisters dying from starvation, and do not give them a handful of rice to save their lives while giving away piles of food to birds and beasts, I have the least sympathy for. And I do not believe that society derives any good from them. If you make a plea of karma by saying that men die through their own karma, then it becomes a settled fact that it is useless to try or struggle for anything in this world. And your work for the protection of animals is no exception. With regards to your cause, also, it can be said that the mother cows fall into the hands of the butchers and die, and we need not do anything in that matter.
The preacher was a little abashed and said,
Yes, what you say is true, but the Shastras say that the cow is our mother.
Yes, that the cow is our mother. I understand. Who else could give birth to such accomplished children?
the up-country preacher did not speak further on the subject. Perhaps he could not understand the point of Swamiji's poignant ridicule. He told Swamiji that he was begging something of him for the objects of the society.
I am a Shonyashi, a fakir. Where shall I find money enough to help you? But if I ever get money in my possession, I shall first spend it in the service of man. Man is first to be saved. He must be given food, education, and spirituality. If any money is left doing all these, then only something would be given to your society.
At these words, the preacher went away after saluting Swamiji. Then Swamiji began to speak.
What words these forsooth? Says he that men are dying by reason of their karma. So what avails doing any kindness to them? This is decisive proof that the country has gone to racks and ruin. Do you see how much abuse the karma theory of your Hinduism has been? Those who are men and yet have no feeling in heart for man, well, are they counted as men at all?
While speaking these words, Swamiji's whole body seemed to shiver in anguish and grief.
In Swamiji's message lies a very practical way of going about service. He talks about first building ourselves, not just physically, but also intellectually and emotionally, so that we are prepared for the challenges that lie ahead of us. He wanted our outlook to grow and progress centrifugally, beginning first with ourselves and gradually encompassing those immediately around us, like our neighbors, our town, and so on. As we grow in our abilities and capabilities, so should our sphere of service grow and expand till one embraced entire humanity itself. Each one needs to undertake activities based on one's own ability. Being a good and honest technocrat, scientist, engineer, and a doctor itself is a good beginning. We could then expand to include more and more lives that we touch in our everyday existence.
He did not forget to warn us of the pitfalls of undertaking such service activities. He understood human ego and its extraordinary potential for creating problems. Vivekananda had thought this through and had a piece of advice for such people. He had remarked, "Do not stand on a pedestal and say, Here, my poor man, take my 5 cents. Feel privileged that the poor man is there to give you an opportunity to serve him. He continues, all the hospitals you build, all the schools you construct can all get washed away in one flood or crumble to dust in one earthquake. So do not think too much of yourself. What matters is not what you do, but how you do it. Service without motive is one of the highest forms of spiritual activity, and always remember to work with the selflessness and dispassion that such a work demands.
He wanted any act of service to be filled with respect and dignity for both the participants, the so-called provider and the recipient. He wanted us to undertake these activities not merely for the betterment of society, but for our own evolution and growth. And he so beautifully advised us to serve God in man. He said, after so much tapasya, I have known that the highest truth is this. He is present in every being. These are all the manifold forms of Him. There is no other God to seek for. He alone is worshipping God who serves all beings.
In our world, in which every action is undertaken with an undercurrent of reciprocity, we need to be mindful of not expecting anything in return for any act of service that we do. This can be done only when we undertake such action with the understanding that we are not the doer and that we are only an instrument through which service is getting done. Instead of feeling like a provider, we need to constantly tell ourselves that we serve because it is in our nature to do so. We should seek neither recognition nor affirmation for our acts.
Let us all live and grow with these messages from Swamiji and continue to carry on with his work.
স্বামীজির মন্ত্র মোরা ভুলব না, স্বামীজির ছন্দ মোরা ভুলব না, স্বামীজির মন্ত্র মোরা ভুলব না, স্বামীজির স্বপ্ন মোরা ভুলব না। ভারত ভূমি পূর্ণ ভূমি ভুলব না, ত্যাগ সেবা মন্ত্র মোদের ভুলব না। বাঁচব প্রভু নিজের তরে বাঁচব না, ভালোবাসা মন্ত্র মোরা ভুলব না, স্বামীজির মন্ত্র মোরা ভুলব না, স্বামীজির স্বপ্ন মোরা ভুলব না। তোমার আমার সবার দেশ ভুলব না, নতুন ভারত করব মোরা থামব না। তোমার আমার সবার দেশ ভুলব না, নতুন ভারত করব মোরা থামব না।
স্বামীজির মন্ত্র মোরা ভুলব না, স্বামীজির স্বপ্ন মোরা ভুলব না,
স্বামীজির মন্ত্র মোরা ভুলব না, ভুলব না, ভুলব না। স্বামীজির মন্ত্র মোরা ভুলব না, স্বামীজির স্বপ্ন মোরা ভুলব না। দুঃখ আসুক ঝঞ্ঝা আসুক বলব না, আমার মাঝে শক্তি অসীম ভুলব না। দুঃখ আসুক ঝঞ্ঝা আসুক বলব না, আমার মাঝে শক্তি অসীম ভুলবো না
স্বামীজির মন্ত্র মোরা ভুলবো না স্বামীজির স্বপ্ন মোরা ভুলবো না
স্বামীজির মন্ত্র মোরা ভুলবো না ভুলবো না ভুলবো না স্বামীজির মন্ত্র মোরা ভুলবো না স্বামীজির স্বপ্ন মোরা ভুলবো না সবার সুখে সুখ যে আমার ভুলবো না বিশ্বকুমার আমার আপন ভুলবো না সবার সুখে সুখ যে আমার ভুলবো না বিশ্বকুমার আমার আপন ভুলবো না
স্বামীজির মন্ত্র মোরা ভুলবো না স্বামীজির স্বপ্ন মোরা ভুলবো না
স্বামীজির মন্ত্র মোরা ভুলবো না ভুলবো না ভুলবো না স্বামীজির মন্ত্র মোরা ভুলবো না স্বামীজির স্বপ্ন মোরা ভুলবো না স্বামীজির মন্ত্র মোরা ভুলবো না স্বামীজির স্বপ্ন মোরা ভুলবো না
That concludes our program.
Rishi Arkarajada.
শুনতে পাচ্ছি মাইকটা বন্ধ হয়ে গেছে
Arkarajada's
Anika,
Ciara
Samarth, Rishit,
Ishani
Yuvraj also Swamiji.
Akshaj Nandini Arjun Raima.
Wait. Swamiji is saying a few words.
Yeah, the program was so good, I think we can dispense with all of the talks. Covered all of the important points. And, it was so beautifully done and so expressive. I think we have some future actors and actresses here. And the singing was beautiful, the whole program was so nice. So a big round of applause for everyone.
We have to give special thanks to Dola. Not
Dola
only
Day.
not
Yes.
only for the music. She wrote all the words.
Everything.
She wrote all the words.
And the script
All
was
the
wonderful.
words.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Grown-ups can come back now. The grown-up artists can come now.
Thank you.
আরো সারা পেয়েছিস? দুটো?
না, একটা পেয়েছি।
আপনি কিন্তু আসবেন।
ওরা চকলেট পেয়েছে, ওরা এখন এটা নিতে এসেছে। প্রণাম করো, প্রণাম করো পায়ে। সবাইকে করো, সবাইকে। ওখানে করো, হ্যাঁ, গুড। পেয়ে গেছে আমাদের।
আগে পড়াও করি।
আচ্ছা, দেখা হবে আবার, দেখা হবে, দেখা হবে, আবার দেখা হবে।
Yes, they must have come here so they can see me.
I live in Wayne, not good one.
Oh, you're in my house. Yeah, so they came to my house and I told them. Oh, wow. But I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, John was there also.
Oh, yeah.
Robert was a young man.
He's still a young man.
In fact, I made his son also.
Your son.
Silence, please. Silence, please. Please take your seat. We want to get started with the next session. Thank you.
Recklessly.
I hope you can beat the kids.
No. Actually, those entertainers, some of them, they refuse to work with kids. Because they know the kids will steal the show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Kids and dogs.
Please take your seat.
সব কথা বলতে কি বেরিয়ে যায়নি
You know, we have 4 speakers. You're okay. And we were given different topics based on the 4 different yogas. And I was given the topic Karma Yoga, an everyday primer for householder devotees. I wasn't sure, should I say primer or primer? India, what do you say?
Primer.
You also say primer? Then we're on the same page. Very good. So anyhow, that was a nice topic. I apologize in advance that after that beautiful program, you have to just listen to ordinary talk. You may remember when Sri Ramakrishna went to the theater and he saw this, I think it was the life of Chaitanya Deva or Prahlad, one of the others. And afterwards, there was what they call a farce, some light comical thing. And Sri Ramakrishna Vivaha. And so Thakur said, after a nice dish of payas, now you're serving with an ordinary dal. So, a bitter melon. He didn't say bitter melon, but this is more appropriate. Anyhow, this I found this to be a nice topic, and I want to boil it down to a few special points. But first, I want to raise one question: that this everyday primer for householder devotees. How different are the teachings for householders and for monks, sannyasis? And when we read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna or even Bhagavad Gita, how great a distinction do we want to make? What are the we can say Bhagavad Gita, the whole thing is for a householder. Everything is spoken to Arjuna. And with the Sri Ramakrishna, sometimes the future monks are there, sometimes the householders are there. So what do we do with all of the teachings that we find there? And does Sri Ramakrishna make such a big distinction? He'll be talking to future monks at the same time he's talking to householders. Sometimes it's very strong. Sometimes there is one time when he's giving some advice to, I think, Narendra, and somebody said, well, what about us? We're householders. And he says, don't bother, I'm talking to him. This is for you. So sometimes we have to understand that. But the point that I want to start out with is that there's not such a huge difference between householders and monks and the teachings that Ramakrishna gives, or Bhagavad Gita, or Swamiji, that the main difference will be that some of the things are done with simply internal renunciation as opposed to external renunciation. Some things have to be done a little more strictly, maybe for the monks, but basically the teachings are more or less the same. And we have many monks who will suffer more from attachment, and many householders who are more shining examples of detachment. That is very wrong sometimes to make that very basic distinction. Monks have a higher type of standard and householders a lower type of standard. So there's a second point. Third point is that when we're reading the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, we have to remember these were not ordinary householders that he's talking to. These were Leela Shahajas. These were really companions in his play. If we look at M and Balaram Bose, Ramchandra, all of these great householders, then we have to understand that it's very high standard. And one last point, we'll get to this a little more later, is that Sri Ramakrishna, when he's giving advice to householders, advice to monks, whatever it is, he didn't come to teach us to to lead a good, pure, religious life in the world, to be good people and everything. He didn't come for that. He came to let us know that we can have God realization. This is a very strange thing that he's telling us, ordinary people, any one of us, that we have to have that as our goal in life. So some of the teachings that Sri Ramakrishna gives will seem to be a very high standard, but he came for that reason. And Swamiji makes a very nice point. He says that we shouldn't present people with an ideal that's too high, but we should never lower the ideal. We should understand sometimes we can live up to it, sometimes we can't, but this is the ideal that we have. And this is also why I believe that will never be a tremendously popular movement. That it's going to be for those people who are willing to really take this one lifetime and say, yes, I'm willing to devote this to God realization. It won't be for everybody, but it'll be a shining example for everybody. Not everyone will want to follow it. And we know that. We should just accept that. So anyhow, I want to go through these few different points, and we'll leave time at the end. Either you can ask questions or you can write them down. If you're more comfortable, there's some cards and someplace here in the Day1. That's okay. So we'll see that we have certain different sources that are especially helpful for this. One will be the Bhagavad Gita. This is really a source book for how we live in the world, and specifically for heroic types of householders, because it's all about this battlefield of life, how we deal with that, calling on God in the midst of this the tremendous fight that we have on our hands with not only external things but internal things, with our senses, our desires, passions, all of this, and how we can remain engaged in this battle with some type of detachment. And then we'll see with Swamiji, and we heard a lot of things in the children's program, how he emphasizes his own brand of Karma Yoga. I remember once one of our monks giving a talk, he said Swamiji wasn't a teacher of Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga generally means that we perform action in a detached spirit to purify the heart so that we can rise to something higher and do our meditation. And have, his Karma Yoga was really worship. It was really a way of living in the world. It wasn't any secondary thing. It wasn't preparatory. We do Karma Yoga in order to become fit to do Jnana Yoga and Raja Yoga. He really gave us a whole new vision of what it means to look upon everything as worship. So this will be kind of Gita and Swamiji together. And then, of course, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. That how he weaves together instructions for monks and householders, how he will emphasize the path of Bhakti Yoga, and yet it's full of Jnana Yoga. All the teachings, everything is there. It's such a masterful way that he does it, speaking to everybody. Because there'll be, as I say, the future monks will be sitting there, the householders will be there, and it's for all of us. So we all have to know how to interpret these things so that they will be helpful in our own lives. And we'll find that whereas Gita and Swamiji emphasis will be mostly on engaging in this battle of life, that Sri Ramakrishna will emphasize another side. Pray to Mother that our duties become fewer and fewer and fewer, so we can devote more and more time to our spiritual practice. Many of us are familiar with the portion of the gospel that deals with M's second meeting with Sri Ramakrishna, because he asks a series of questions that really, when we look at the questions and the answers, we can say the entirety of the rest of the gospel is commentary on that. This is so important. But we have other sections as well. And I'm going to start out a little bit with the chapter, which is entitled Advice to Householders. And we get some very important questions there. And see, Anne was good at asking questions. And Sri Ramakrishna, they had a little game that they played that somehow Sri Ramakrishna, knowing that Anne will write these things down and that these will be valuable for people in generations to come. So the types of questions and the types of answers, it has that extra dimension to it, which is very interesting. That is really for all of us. That Sri Ramakrishna was not the type of person that would have this in the front of his mind. Yes, he'll write this down. I better say something. It was all natural with him, but somehow he knew it. And even though he was so innocent and guileless, he knew that he came with a mission in life. So all of these things are terribly important for all of us. So this particular chapter begins with Sri Ramakrishna discussing with him the meeting that he had recently had with Vidyasagar, the great philanthropist. He was known, most of you know this, of course, as really one of the luminaries of West Bengal, of all of India at that particular time, both for the work he did in education and for his charitable work and working to uplift the poor and the plight of women, so many things. He was really a fantastic person. And Sri Ramakrishna was very highly impressed with him. But he knew that the time was right for the Vidyasagar to go a little bit inward, to go deeper. So he's explaining to him all of this. He said that the work that Vidyasagar is doing, helping the poor, opportunities for education, uplift the women, he said all of these are based on sattva and they're very good. He's not putting any footnote, not any very good, but he said they're very good. Then he says at the same time, he is now engaged in doing good works, but he doesn't know what is within himself. God is hidden within him. God dwells within us. If one knows that, one feels like giving up all activities and praying to God with a yearning soul. Then Sri Ramakrishna says to him, a little spiritual discipline is necessary in order to know what lies within. Now, this is also a little bit of a trick. That when he says a little bit, what is a little bit? Yeah, for us, a little bit may be 5 minutes in the morning. For him, a little bit, maybe 2 hours. I mean, when he says a little bit, we have to understand that for him, a little bit is a tremendous amount for us. That we have to really be very serious about spiritual practice. The householder doesn't get a free pass with this. It's not that only the monks have to do their meditation, sadhana, and everything. The householder simply has to lead a good life and do a little pilgrimage, maybe a little bit of japa, some puja. For Sri Ramakrishna, that everybody has to do this, to do some real spiritual practice. So a little spiritual discipline is necessary in order to know what lies within. So this is one of the great themes that runs throughout the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Not simply grace and surrender, that everybody remembers that. But how many remember is that you have to work hard? And he gives so many nice examples. I'll mention one now. The story of the bird on the mast of the ship. Now, many of these stories we've heard so many times that we don't think very deeply about them. But most of you know the story that a bird lands on the mast of a ship. The ship is anchored at shore and the bird falls asleep. By the time the bird wakes up, the ship is already out to sea and it's gone so far that the bird doesn't know which direction to fly. Wants to go back to land, but doesn't know what direction. So starts in one direction, doesn't see any land, and is so tired that fear is that the bird won't be able to get back unless it heads back then. So it immediately goes back and rests and goes in every direction. And when he doesn't see land in any direction. Then the bird says, let me take refuge with the ship itself. Wherever the ship takes me, I'll be happy. It's the perfect surrender comes. Now, what is the real message that we get here? One is surrender, of course, that this will be the final stage. Even in Gita, that's the final stage. After Sri Krishna is telling Arjuna over and over again, fight in the battle, fight, fight, fight. At the end, he says, give up all dharma, adharma, and everything, and take shelter with me, refuge with me, I'll do everything. But what is this flying back and forth?
Self-effort.
It's self-effort, but is it futile? Is it just flapping our wings so that we realize that we can't do it on our own? No, it's more than that. We're preparing ourselves for this type of surrender, and strength is coming. Each time we go and come back, we're getting stronger and stronger, and some real transformation has to take place during this process of trying to do it on our own. So it's not just that we have to convince ourselves that we're helpless people. No, this spiritual practice, it may not be the final thing. We may need grace ultimately, but it's indispensable, and it's working its magic, whether we know it or not. So this necessary, otherwise the bird could have just said, oh, wherever the ship takes me, it's okay. But the bird can't do that until it exhausts all possible means and methods of trying to find land on its own. So we're not simply flapping our wings in vain when we do our spiritual practice, that this is preparing us. First of all, the transformation is taking place, preparing us to be able to reach that state of Sharanagati, which is absolutely necessary. Now, Sri Ramakrishna tells us two things that seem very paradoxical. One, we're doing everything to reach this state of Sharanagati. That means that surrender and no more effort and ending, a type of almost contentment, almost as if we've reached the goal with the Sharanagati. The other thing that he tells us, which seems to be the exact opposite, the final rung of the ladder is this vyakulata, this tremendous restlessness of heart for realization. So how do we join these two things together? I was thinking about this the other day, and this image came to my mind of the mother and the child. Child will take absolute refuge and shelter in the mother, whatever the mother says, whatever the mother does, that the child is pleased just to be in the company of the mother. But when the child is separated from the mother, oh, the child will scream, and the world has come to an end. If you've ever seen, if you go to the mall sometimes, the child is separated from a mother, how the child is screaming for the mother. So both are true, and that we won't have the tremendous longing for God till God becomes real for us, and that we know that that's our only refuge. So both are true. Maybe different types of people will rely more on Sharanagati, and some more on this Vyakulata really is for Sri Ramakrishna. We can't expect, very few will have that type of tremendous longing and restlessness that we're ready to cut our throats if we don't realize God. Then this is something that these great saints, we see in the lives of these great saints. So a little spiritual discipline is necessary. I want to remind us all again, necessary for what? To lead a good life in the world? No, from God realization. Even to lead a good life in the world, we'll see, for everything about karma yoga, we need a little bit of grounding in spiritual life, that this becomes the anchor for us. That if we want to be able to do selfless work, if we don't want this ego to creep in, we have to be grounded. We have to do some type of meditation. Very often, the objection would come up, and people would say to Sri Ramakrishna, what about King Janaka? That he achieved perfection just through action alone. And Sri Ramakrishna would say, yes, but how much tapasya, how much austerity he did before that when he was younger. He would always emphasize that point. Swami Swanaji, I have to pay a little respect to Swami Swanaji, especially in Connecticut, because his role here was so indispensable. He's the one who started everything here. We have our Tapas and Ratna here. They were fortunate that he spent so much time in their home, and that was really the center in the early days. So really, we have a great debt of gratitude to Swami Swahanandaji. One of his favorite expressions was bind yourself to a routine. That means spiritual practice, spiritual routine. And it's another statement that sounds a little bit strange. Everything we're get up this morning, should I sleep in? Should I skip it today? Can I do half of it today? Can I do some tomorrow? It just becomes automatic. We get established in that type of routine. And this is what Sri Ramakrishna wanted for us. How even when these young boys would stay in the room with him at night, he couldn't bear to wake up in the middle of the night and see them sleeping. He would sleep maybe an hour himself. He'd go and wake them all up and said, "What are you doing? You're wasting your time. Sit for meditation." So how much emphasis that he put on that. So this question always comes up: how much effort? How much is necessary? Ultimately, we have to rely on grace in some way. So, and we'll ask this next question: is it necessary to practice spiritual discipline all through life? And now we'll get this formula that Sri Ramakrishna talks about, this self-effort and grace, and how it's not that we do self-effort and then that we just have cut-off line and then there's grace. There's a gradual increase in our effort, but reduction of our external duties and things. Everything goes in stages, we can say. So Sri Ramakrishna says that we don't have to do it throughout our life, but one must be up and doing the beginning. After that, one need not work hard. And then he gives the example of the boatman. This is another example that we hear so many times, that this breeze of grace is always blowing. We just have to catch it. Now, again, we have to remember, the full story that Sri Ramakrishna tells, that the boatman has to work very hard, that the anchor has to be pulled up, and then he has to row very hard, and the river may be a lot of turns. He's really exhausted by the time he can get far enough out to raise the sail. It doesn't work otherwise. If he sits on the bank and raises the sail, it won't work. He has to get far enough out. And then my favorite phrase from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, Anukul Hawa. Whenever I hear that phrase, it's like a little breeze has come. It's just the coolest. Anukul Hawa. They say, in English, they say favorable breeze. You can just picture on a very hot day, when it's very hot outside, and somehow this little cool breeze comes. How nice it is! I had an experience once that I was going to Jainamati, and it was terribly hot, just ridiculously hot. And I was given a room. It was just an evening time, so I took a just cold water bath to just kind of cool off. And it was just the season where the weather was changing, and temperature must have dropped 20 degrees. So it was just perfect. Just lying in bed after a cold bath, and the breeze came through, and it was just almost delicious. You could almost taste it. This is that Anukul Hawa. But it happens after we do a lot of hard work. So this is kind of that formula that we self-effort, and that self-effort, a little bit is flapping our wings, and a little bit is being able to receive that grace and that reach that state of surrender. Now, why so much emphasis on spiritual practice? I want to talk on karma yoga. Spiritual practice means meditation, number one, and then jump in prayer and everything else. And this goes back to that earlier point that we have to get established in our own real nature or in a relationship with God. If we like this idea of the jnani, then with our true self, If we're more devotional, we have to get established in that relationship. Sri Ramakrishna mentions this so many times, that we have to form any of the different human relationships, that mother to child, or beloved to lover, or any of the relationships, to form that type of relationship with God. And then we'll be able to work without getting too entangled in the world. This is the whole thing, that no matter how pure our motives are, Sri Ramakrishna tells us, no matter how pure our motives are, how good we are, that a little bit of pride will come in when we engage in good actions, and a little bit of attachment may come in also. So this is really necessary for all of that. The conversation in this chapter continues later that evening. Sri Ramakrishna says to him, perform your duties in an unselfish spirit. Now we get to the real Karma Yoga. The work that Vidyasagar is engaged in is very good. Always try to perform your duties without desiring any results. Now, some of you may remember I gave a whole talk on this topic, that we shouldn't get fooled into thinking that Karma Yoga means we don't care about the results.
We do care.
We not only do we care, if we're devotees, we have to care more than anybody else. That several different reasons. If we're more jnani types, then we want to be able to learn how to concentrate the mind, because same mind that's working is doing meditation. But from a devotional point of view, that if everything is done as an offering, it has to be done as perfectly as possible. And whatever we do, it should be done with the same devotion, the same care, the same love as the work that we do in the shrine. There should be no difference whatsoever in our attitude towards any of this type of work. So this not desiring the results doesn't mean we don't want them to be as perfect as possible, whatever the results, we shouldn't do anything unless we want to do it correctly. There's no point in undertaking anything if we don't want to be successful. So we don't want to care about any personal gain or reward or anything like that. There should be a very pure motive. If something's worth doing, we should do it. And if we have this attitude, everything is an offering, then of course, whatever we offer to God, we want it to be something that's worth offering. So this idea of pride coming in, does it mean, somebody asked this question, does it mean we shouldn't take pride in our work? No, we take pride in our work, but we shouldn't be boastful about it. Do we want to seek praise? We don't want to seek praise, but if somebody recognizes that we've done something properly, we appreciate it. That's all right. But if we're real karma yogis from this devotional point of view, then everything becomes a type of worship for us. So not desiring the fruits means not clinging to the fruits, and knowing that what's in our hands is the work, that we can control that much, and the result we can't control. If we look at the scientist who's doing an experiment, they'll do everything as perfectly as possible, so that even if the result is wrong, they'll know that it's wrong, and they'll know, okay, we can eliminate this. If they do sloppy work, they won't know if it was their fault or not. So, and if some great discovery is made, there should be joy because of the discovery. Not that, oh, now I'll be famous and it'll be named after me and I'll get a big position and everything. This is what we have to avoid in Karma Yoga. But we can't be sloppy about our work and call ourselves devotees. That we have to really look upon everything as of tremendous value, and we have to put all our heart and soul into whatever we do. So we say the passions, that we want to be free from all the passions. But when we work, we have to be passionate about what we do. Even human relationships. Sri Ramakrishna did not like people who were a little aloof and distant. You remember he asked one of his disciples, I think Swami Turiyananda, he asked him, who do you love? He said, I don't love anybody. He said, a dry fellow. So he didn't care for that. That even our relationship, there should be a passionate type of love in the work we do, but the ability to let go. This was Swamiji's emphasis. So the equal ability to attach and detach. While we're doing the work, heart and soul goes into the work. When we're finished, we can let go. So this is that beautiful balance that we have when we practice this type of karma yoga. So this living in the world without attachment, one of the great teachings of Gita, we don't look upon Sri Ramakrishna so much as emphasizing these things, but they're there. His emphasis was so much on God realization, we almost forget some of these other things. But this was one of the most important teachings, and that first visit that I talked about, this is really where M gets that teaching, which was so important to him throughout his whole life. Now, another story I'll tell, which we all know. These are so many, sometimes I hesitate to talk about them, they're so well known, but live in the world like the maidservant in the rich man's house. We've all heard this story, but again, we have to look, it has two sides to it. The story is about the woman who lives in the village. She comes into the city and she works for a wealthy man and raises the children, takes them out to the park and just with the stroller and then cleans the house and does everything there. When she goes to the park and she meets with her other friends who are doing the same thing, they'll say, "Oh, you should see what we have in our house. We just bought some new furniture, and what my little hubby did. He's so cute and everything." But the whole time she knows that it's not her house and that's not her child. Now, the second half of this that Sri Ramakrishna says, but she'll never forget that she has her own home in the country and her own family and everything there. So it's not enough to simply have detachment, to say that nothing belongs to me. I mean, we know that whatever we have is going to disappear one day, and if it doesn't, we'll disappear. We won't get to take anything with us. We know all of that, but there are many people who feel not much attachment to things and everything, but they're not really spiritual people because there's nothing pulling them in the other direction. So the second half is equally, if not more important, that the whole time that we're doing work in this world, we remember our true nature. What does it mean to have our home in the village? Our true nature. We know, and again, the Jnani will say, my true nature is I know that I'm the undying, unborn self. And the devotee will say, I know my true nature. I'm child of the Divine Mother. This is my real nature. So again, we have to give equal emphasis to both of these things. So this is how we live in the world. We have our duties to perform. Sri Ramakrishna emphasizes this idea that little by little, pray to the Divine Mother, pray that they can be lessened, our duties in the world. We have more and more time to devote to our spiritual practice. But it's not possible for everybody, depending on our circumstances, with young families to raise and jobs and everything like that. So what do we do when we can't avoid this? This is a battlefield of life. We can't avoid it. The nice that Sri Ramakrishna tells us, yeah, lessen your duties little by little by little. But it's not always possible. So now we have the Gita and we have the teachings of Swamiji that become very, very helpful for us. And everything goes back to this idea that the work that we do has to be looked upon as worship. It has to be raised to that level. In the beginning, Swamiji says, we try to balance work and worship. Then we try to see that have the same attitude towards our work that we do towards worship. And then finally we see that there's no distinction. That work is worship. This is, again, the formula that Swamiji has. But we find this in Gita, that through the performance of our own duties, and in that case, it meant even Arjuna going into battle and killing people. Yeah, that one can attain siddhi perfection, even through the performance of duty. If we look at it that way, if we look at it really as a type of of worship. So now what we're talking about is karma yoga, really is bhakti yoga. It's really how do we live in the world, converting everything to something divine, and to feel that whatever we do is worship. Is a worship. You can either just say that the work itself is worship, or as an offering, that everything is meant to be done as an offering. So we've seen already that we get grounded in spiritual practice. This is number one. We can't avoid that. We really can't avoid that. If we want to lead a good life where we interact with people nicely and everything, we can avoid it. It's not necessary for many good people in the world. But if we say this is a rare opportunity, this human birth, let me give it a try, and I really want to do something special in this lifetime, we can't avoid it. We have to do some type of practice. But spiritual practice and inner development go hand in hand, and we can't expect our ability to concentrate, our ability to increase our devotion. We can't expect any of these things to take place unless we ourselves change. And they work together through our spiritual practice. We change, but we also have to work on character development. If we want to be able to do all of these things, not just on doing our meditation and everything, but we really have to pay attention to how kind are we, how unselfish are we, how much are we able to empathize with other people, to see the goodness in other people. So all of these things have great emphasis in Bhagavad Gita when we see all of the different illustrations that we have. Why so much emphasis on these ideal souls? We have a Stita Prajna section. We in chapter 2, chapter 12, there's a section about who is the dearest devotee to Sri Krishna. They give us all indications of what type of qualities we ourselves have to try to adopt and develop in order to be able to really consider ourselves devotees of God. So these things, there's no trick to these things. This type of character development, it requires really just observing the mind, observing the way we react to things, and having some conviction that we can change. Some conviction. We do it through affirmation. We do all different ways that we can do it, but we have to have some conviction that if we're selfish people, we can learn to be unselfish. And again, our meditation and everything will help. Through our meditation, we lose all of this strong identification with this external, lower apparent self. But other than that, we have to just pay attention. We have to pay attention and have to observe the mind. And when we find qualities in us that we don't like, make an attempt to change them. Now, what is the best way to do this? I think the best way is holy company. This is really the answer that we get from Sri Ramakrishna on almost everything. When he's asked, what are the means to realize God? What is the best way to develop devotion? Almost always, he'll say holy company. Through holy company, we see a living example before us. We feel inspired. If we see someone with those qualities and how joyful it makes a person, it's not that we want to be unselfish because of some very high ethical moral teaching. It's good to be unselfish. But because unselfish people are happy people. Really, I've never met a selfish person who was a happy person. No, seriously, if you just look around and try to analyze, those people who are always concerned about others, thinking about the welfare of others, they won't always be happy because they'll suffer along with other people. But it's not the same as selfish people. They have no peace of mind even. Those people who are more concerned with the welfare of others, they're free from the burden of self, of this lower self, somehow. So these are all meant to, I should say they have a double purpose. in Gita, it's very interesting. These things have a double purpose. Everything is helpful for God realization, and it's helpful to make us happy. There's a beautiful verse in Gita, which I'm very fond of, that says that those who are able to withstand the tremendous force of the passions, they can withstand it in this very lifetime. They won't give in to it. They're both yukta, they're both yogis and sukhinara, and happy people. This is a very important thing. That suppose we don't believe in God, we don't believe in yoga, anything like that. Just to be happy in life. Those who are happy are those who have some self-control and are not bound by the selfish desires and all of these things. So we see this with these great souls. When we, through Holy Company, we get that living example, and we get to say, I like the way this person lives in the world. I want to be like that. We have the nice stories with Tub when he went out four different times, and the image of a sick person and an old person and a dead person. But the last one was this sannyasi, and he sees that just no attachment to anything, so joyful. And Buddha says, see, I would like to become like that. So this is what the Holy Company does, and it shows us how to do it. And because we see that people don't become like that without doing their spiritual practice and everything. So this Holy Company is really, I think, the best way for us to get that example before us and to know how to do it, and to see what qualities we want to imbibe in our own lives. Now, I want to make one final point, and that is, so far we've talked about. Let me go through these points. Number one, we want to put the teaching of Karma Yoga into practice. We do some sadhana, some spiritual practice. Then we live in the world. We have to do it without selfishness, with some type of detachment. But then also we have to have some positive view. Look upon work as worship. Look at that as an opportunity to also do some type of spiritual practice. Then point 3 was we have to work on some inner transformation if we really want to be able to achieve anything. Now, this last point, exactly a new teaching, but the emphasis is so great. And I have the conviction that Swamiji didn't teach anything that can't be directly traced, or maybe indirectly traced back to Sri Ramakrishna himself. And this idea of worshiping God through service of others is something that Swamiji heard when he was just Narendra, when Thakur was talking about Jiva Daya, compassion to living beings. The interesting thing about this incident, when Sri Ramakrishna said, no, not compassion, but worship, God dwelling within, that Swamiji, Narendra, was the only one who was very much impressed with this. That he walked out of the room, some of the other brother disciples were there, and he said, did you hear what the master said? And they said, no, what did he say? We've heard him he said so many things. He said, no, he's taken this compassion for all living beings, raised it to a type of worship, all based on the Advaita Vedanta. And if I ever get the chance, I'll spread this message throughout the world. And he did it. And Swamiji did it. So it goes right back to him. But this is the great teaching that we see God dwelling in all beings, and the service to them is also highest type of word. Highest, that Swamiji said, break all other idols. And Sri Ramakrishna, not a lila. Highest worship of God is seeing God dwelling in other beings. Now, everything that we do in spiritual life requires some type of attitude and some type of relationship. Now, we have different ways of practicing this. One is too high. To be very honest with all of you, that I see my very own self within other beings. If I'm helping someone else, I'm helping myself. I don't care for that too much. It sounds a little selfish to me. Why do I have to feel I'm helping myself in order to want to help somebody else? But those who have that vision, that's a different story. If they can really have that feeling of oneness with everybody, that's a very high thing. Most of us won't be able to do it. if we see God dwelling, personal God, we can say Antaryamin. If we really feel the divine presence in other people, not that we have to feel that oneness, we have to feel connected. Very hard for me to say that I don't see any distinction between me and you. I can say it from the point of view we're both human beings, we're both devotees, but actually that myself is yourself, very hard. Now, there can be a stage and the type of realization where we have that, but anyhow, we can say qualified non-dualists can feel this thread connecting all of this together, the sutratman, connecting all of this together. But even those who are dualists, we're all children of the same God. So if we look at Swamiji's teaching, we find that it's equally seeing the divinity in others and also seeing the humanity in others and seeing the dignity in others. And for Swamiji, his love of humankind was not simply based on all that divine presence within. He said one time, I've fallen in love with man, that with all the faults, with all the shortcomings and everything, that he felt that connection. This is how we could say this, Daridra Narayana. Otherwise, there's no distinction. But those who are most in need of service, the poor, the downtrodden, those who don't have enough education and everything, he said, let them be the special object of your worship. So we have these different attitudes that we can take. Main thing is we understand that whatever divine presence is within us, it's within everyone else. So these are just, I want to leave a little time, a few of the ideas as primer of Karma Yoga. We could have dozens of things added to it, but these were the things that came to my mind and I thought would be a little bit helpful. If we can put them into practice, it'll be a great benefit to us in our spiritual life and it'll make us happy. This is such an overlooked idea that we make ourselves unhappy through selfishness and by not having a high ideal. If we, not the ordinary type of happiness, of course, but some type of deeper contentment, feeling that we're doing something of value in this lifetime. So let me stop here, and we have roughly 10 minutes less. If anybody would like to ask a question, you could write it down, or you can just ask it. It doesn't matter. Yes.
Does God realization lead us to salvation?
When the question is, does God realization lead us to salvation? We understand God realization, this mukti. If we say mukti, if we get this while we're living. So if we get this jivan mukti while we're living, it's understood that when the body falls, we'll have this videha mukti. We'll automatically have it. So it's not that we'll have some experience or something. If it's real, genuine God realization, then there'll be a different type of transformation, a type of transformation with no reversal. So we read in the Upanishads that all of our karma gets burned. So there's no seed left for any type of rebirth. And all the doubts are gone. All of the knots of the heart are untied. And this happens when we have that God realization. So God realization is what we're striving for. What Holy Mother tells us is that if we don't get it during this lifetime, here and now, we can get it at the final moment. That the final moment, and I've seen this in many cases with devotees that we think they're not free from desire. How are they? End of the life, that the mind gets gathered together, and these ordinary desires that we think they still had, they're not there at that time. I've seen this in many different cases, that we shouldn't feel that attaining this final liberation is such a impossible task, that if we lead a really life of dedication and devotion, the mind will go there at the end. But if we want to have that God realization here and now, then we have to work hard. This is what the Holy Mother told us.
Worshipping God always, is this the karma yoga, and who doesn't do, he doesn't do the karma?
No, if the whole mind is thinking of God and we do everything as worship of God, then it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't make any difference if we're sitting quietly in the shrine, if we're doing puja, if we're mowing the lawn, if we're whatever we do, it doesn't make any difference. Everything is mon ekota. This is a very nice expression that Sri Ramakrishna uses. Mon ekota. Everything is a question of the mind. So it really, if we have that attitude that we do everything as type of worship, then it doesn't matter if we're active, if we're not active, what we're doing at the time, because we don't want to waste our time. And it doesn't mean that we can do all sorts of nasty things. If we have that attitude in our life, there should be some type of purity to our lives also.
Maharaj, could you please elucidate application of karma from the people as described in Gita 1841 and 1845, that our combination of tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic nature, our tendency will be different, and how that will also affect how we do the karma.
Okay, this is an interesting question. And we have two ways of looking at this. That we can say that we have to root out all of the tamasic nature. We do that through rajas. Then we root out rajas through sattva. That we want to keep purifying ourselves. But there'll be certain elements and aspects of our personality that won't change very easily. This is what we read in Gita, that nigraha kim karishati. What good will it do to try to, if the current is so strong in one direction? So Sri Ramakrishna says, utilize it. And for some reason he likes the tamasa bhakti. That those who have that nature, no, mother, you have to show yourself to me, reveal yourself to me. He said, then utilize it that way. Otherwise, if these tamasic elements really are just laziness and indolence and everything, then Swamiji's formula, and Gita also, that we overcome tamas by being active. We have to get up and be doing. And when that activity has any tinge of selfishness and ambition and everything, then we add a little sattva and we try to purify it. And then through this sattva, we reach that point where we can go beyond activity completely. And then we get this shuddha sattva, or we transcend ordinary sattva and have some type of realization after that.
We have time just for one more question, if you have.
Yeah, Paula.
Yes, Swami, do you have some practical suggestions on binding ourselves to spiritual practice, like you were saying?
Yeah, this first of all, you can just make some decisions. You can just sit down one day and say that from today onward, I'll get up at a certain time, that I'll devote this amount of time to my meditation, this amount of time to spiritual reading. Really just sit down, do it one by one, then experiment a little bit. If it turns out that it's a real burden, if it turns out that we're not looking forward to our spiritual practice, then we can adjust a little bit. But at some point, once we've become established in a type of routine, then it's just mental strength to keep it up. We look at the life of Latu Maharaj, Swami Bhutananda. When he first took that resolve that I won't sleep at nighttime. Nighttime is reserved for meditation and spiritual practice. If I'm tired, I'll sleep a little during the morning and afternoon. He said, when I first took that resolution, then I felt myself sleepy. So I got up, I walked around, sleepy. Then I slapped my face a little, I was sleepy. Then I poured cold water on my face, I was sleepy. And he said, finally, after long practice, I conquered that. So that he maybe at the very end when he was sick, but otherwise the rest of his life, that he wouldn't sleep at night. So a lot of it is really just Durudha Nishtaya. We have this phrase, this very firm resolution. This phrase occurs in many places in Gita, a very firm resolution that we simply decide and say, well, that mind, you're not going to fool me. You're going to come with all sorts of reasons why I'm better off going back to sleep. I'm not going to listen to you. And then we just have to try to put it into practice.
I don't have any questions on it, I think.
Okay, so now we have a tea break. So from 5 o'clock to 5:30, and it'll be in the basement here, not in the tent. Oh, in the tent, I'm sorry. So it'll be in the tent. So everyone, please try to be back here by 5:30 for oddity and meditation. And then at 6:15 to 7:15, that Swami Sarvapriyanandaji will speak on Jnana Yoga, spiritual practice using the knowledge of the scriptures. So let me personally, and on behalf of all the Swamijis and on behalf of everyone here, thank everybody for coming. And a little reminder that one way for us to feel connected with Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother and Swamiji is to feel connected to the center. And if we to put in this idea of work is worship, to do work for the center, is a great blessing to be able to do that. So I encourage everybody to, and one way of also serving is by attending, even if without doing any volunteer work, attending, to show up to programs and lectures and pujas and everything. Show up. If you can help, then of course help. Monetary help is necessary also, but you should all feel the blessing to be able to, especially a new center, blessing to help in this kind of pioneer work of this center. So my thanks to everyone, and please don't forget to come back for the rest of the program and then tomorrow also.